The fiscal policy is correct, but the claim that the debt to GDP is on a declining path is hopelessly wrong. On this count, the government's grade is fail with a capital F. To manage the economy, control the fiscal deficit, and make sure that the declining path which you proclaim is sustained. So on fiscal policy, I'm afraid I have to give the government a very low pass. Not fail, but it's a low pass.
Sri P. Chidambaram ji, please.
Honorable Deputy Chairman, the budget for 2025-26 was presented 8 weeks ago. Today, nobody talks about the budget because, as we pointed out in that debate, it did not help anybody except the 3.2 crore income tax payers. All other sections of the people are in the same situation. What do they face? We have pointed out several times, and the Lok Sabha also pointed out in the debate on the finance bill. As a nation, we are facing rising unemployment, inflation in food, education, and healthcare, stagnant wages, according to government's figures, falling consumption, depreciating currency, rising household debt, the lowest household financial savings, and a government that has mercilessly cut budgeted expenditure in the current year, budgeted expenditure on health, education, social welfare, agriculture, rural development, urban development, midday meal scheme, Jal Jeevan Mission, scholarships for SC and ST and so on. These figures cannot be contradicted, and they were not contradicted because the figures are printed in the budget papers. We asked several questions, and I'm sorry to say we got no answers. Actually, the budget has vanished without a trace. Wherever I go, wherever I speak, nobody remembers the budget, nobody discusses the budget. We are in the second stage now. This is the finance bill and the appropriation bill. I'd like to speak about only two things. One is the fiscal policy, and the second is the threat of a tariff war. My colleagues will speak about other matters. On fiscal policy, the Honorable Finance Minister said in her speech, and I quote, "Our endeavour will be to keep the fiscal deficit each year such that the central government debt remains on a declining path as a percentage of the GDP." The intent was good, the intent is good. And in fact, in an interview, I complimented the Honorable Finance Minister when they asked me, what do I have to say to compliment the government? I said their intent to maintain the fiscal deficit and a declining path for FD to GDP is commendable. Now, I'm afraid, looking at the performance, we have to reconsider that statement. When this government assumed office on May 2014, the fiscal deficit at the end of the previous year was 4.5%. Kindly keep that number, 4.5%, according to their own official numbers. In the middle of this government's tenure, the FD improved to 3.4% in 2018-19. But at the end of 24-25, it will be 4.8%. You start with 4.5, improve it to 3.9, and then decline to 4.8. So effectively, the country's economy is back to where it started. The government, of course, will say COVID happened. I agree. COVID did dent the economy of the country. But every government faces crisis. The previous governments, the governments previous to the BJP government, NDA government, faced an Asian financial crisis, the international financial crisis, and the taper tantrum. So there's no point blaming external crises. It's your business, it's the government's business to manage the economy, control the fiscal deficit, and make sure that the declining path which you proclaimed is sustained. So on fiscal policy, I'm afraid I have to give the government a very low pass. Not fail, but it's a low pass. The other point which the Honourable Finance Minister made was, we are on a declining path as a percentage of GDP, but that's not borne out by the record. According to the fiscal policy strategy statement laid by the Honourable Finance Minister on the floor of Parliament, the debt to GDP ratio will be 57.1% in 2024-25. 57.1. When they assumed office, it was 51%. It worsened to 61.4%. Compared to 61.4, 57.1 is certainly a declining path. But compared to 51% debt to GDP, when they assumed office, we are worse. The claim of a declining path is wrong. It rose, declined. There's no guarantee it will continue to decline. It may happen as it happened 4 years ago. It may rise again. The fiscal policy is correct, but the claim that the debt to GDP is on a declining path is hopelessly wrong. On this count, the government's grade is fail with a capital F.